We begin with breaking news at 5 o'clock and attempts to rescue a stranded hiker. It's happening at Munra Point in the Gorge. That's by Bonneville Dam. And this is a live look right now. Rescuers have reached the 51-year-old man, and he is able to walk down with them. He was stuck at the top of a steep, rocky cliffside.
And that is because the amazing view at Munra Point, 2,000 feet up, well, it comes with a price. It is exposed to the elements, and also crucially, the 4.5-mile out and back trail is not maintained. Also, it has actually been closed since the Eagle Creek fire in 2017. So rescuers had to use GPS to try and navigate their way up.
The updates from our teams is that it's been a difficult trail to follow. They've been following GPS coordinates from the prior trail, but this is the first time we've sent a team up in a while, so it'll be interesting to get their feedback, but it sounds like it's a very hard trail to navigate.
And this next part is pretty remarkable, how the hiker was spotted. Now, we understand he made a signal fire. The smoke got the attention of a worker at the Bonneville Dam way down there who then spotted it and called for help. The hiker has the early stages of hypothermia. He has lost his hiking boots, and we're hearing the descent, Laurel, is going to take about 3 or 4 hours. We will keep you updated right here and, of course, at KGW.com. Well, let's take you to another story we are following closely tonight. A hectic weekend for the Portland Police Bureau, which is already stretched thin. So add to that the impact of a number of crashes and shootings all within a matter of hours. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko.
And I'm Laurel Porter. Officers were so busy that less serious calls for service did not get the attention they deserve. Mike Benner joins us from police headquarters in downtown Portland. Mike, you spoke to the president of the police union, and he told you this whole thing may get worse before it gets better.
Laurel, in just 2 months, dozens of members of the police bureau become eligible for retirement. If they walk, an understaffed bureau becomes even thinner. And that is concerning, considering all of the calls for service we saw this past weekend.
To say the men and women of the Portland Police Bureau were busy this weekend would be an understatement. For proof, look no further than a 13-hour stretch from Friday evening to early Saturday morning. Officers responded to 5 shootings and 3 serious traffic crashes.
Whenever these things are going on, I'm getting phone calls and hearing from the chief, getting updates.
Sergeant Aaron Schmaltz is the president of the Portland Police Association. He's well aware the heavy call load over the weekend stretched the bureau thin. Officers could only respond to high priority calls. This means that people calling 911 to report a theft, runaway, or missing person, for example, aren't getting a police response.
You're talking about just your everyday Portland citizen who's experiencing an emergency, experiencing something that is very important in their life. And that may be the only time that they call the police. And that, for me, is the most heartbreaking thing.
And unfortunately, Schmaltz says it could get worse before it gets better. KGW has learned of more than 100 vacancies at the Police Bureau, and that number could jump in July, when anywhere between 40 and 60 sworn members of the Bureau will be eligible to retire.
The reality is that without enough robust staffing, if you experience a critical emergency, it's going to take longer for people to respond. And that just simply is unacceptable.
Schmaltz says the Bureau has no choice but to lean on community organizations that in the past have offered to help law enforcement with public safety.
I just think we need to continue to have honest conversations about what our needs are, where we can best work together.
Yeah, and speaking of working together, it's not just up to PPB and these community organizations to figure this out. The general public plays a role in this too. They need to put the guns down. They need to drive carefully as well. And that would put less of a strain on PPB. Laurel.
Thank you, Mike. And law enforcement north of the Columbia are citing issues with resources too. Clark County deputies say 3 times this morning, suspects were able to get away after committing various crimes. First, just before 2 a.m., deputies in rural Clark County found a stolen pickup truck crashed and abandoned. They did not find the thieves. Then at about 5 a.m. in Vancouver, deputies got reports of car prowlers in a parking lot at Northeast Hazeldale and Barrington Place. The suspects got away on I-5 in a stolen car. Then an hour later at Northeast 121st and 4th Plain Boulevard, thieves broke into a closed automotive business to steal tires. Deputies found the suspects driving nearby, but again, the thieves got away. Authorities say it's happening in part because of a Washington state law that restricts law enforcement chases for non-violent crimes. All 3 cases remain open with no arrests.
To an update now on problems and frustration surrounding a growing homeless camp. Now, on Friday, we brought you the concerns of residents at the Tall Firs RV Park in Southeast Portland. They say a nearby homeless camp at 157th and Division has essentially taken over and has grown to the point that they do not feel safe in their own homes. They cite issues like thefts, break-ins, and being threatened with weapons. So we promised we'd follow up on this, and today the city told us, after assessing this camp, that it does pose a health and safety threat. It is now on their agenda to be swept and removed, though it is not clear yet when that's going to happen or where the campers will go.
The murder trial for Nancy Crampton Brophy is postponed once again for at least another day because someone involved in the trial has COVID. Crampton Brophy is the local romance novelist accused of murdering her husband Daniel Brophy in June of 2018 at the Oregon Culinary Institute, where he was an instructor. The prosecution rested its case a couple of weeks ago. The trial is tentatively set to resume tomorrow. Despite our record rainfall last month, it's not expected to stop us from seeing wildfires this summer across the state. The Northwest Interagency Coordination Center just released its outlook for what we're expected to see this summer, and this wildfire season is going to be high risk. The west side of the state will be at normal risk, but it's going to be above normal risk all summer for Central Oregon. And what's really concerning is how hot the entire country is expected to get.
I've been doing this job for going into 38 years now, and I can't recall ever having seen such an ominous signal displayed over such a large swath of the continental United States.
John Saltenberger says typically wildfire season starts in our area by July, but that can always change depending on when we start to see temperatures warm up.
Developing tonight for the first time in 3 years, I should say the 5th time, that makes a big difference. The Ridgefield School District has asked voters to pass a bond aimed at alleviating crowding. The 5th time in 3 years. Most of the votes are in already, and it appears it's going to come up short again. Bryant Clerkley joins us now in the newsroom. Bryant, the bond needs what is called a super majority to pass here.
That's right, David. Proposition 8 was on the ballot for a special election last week. And according to the Clark County Elections website, the bond has just over 59% of the votes in favor of it, and it needs 60%. More votes will be counted tomorrow, but the $62 million bond that would pay for a new building and expansions is in jeopardy. If approved, there will be a new 75,000 square foot elementary school open to alleviate some of the overcrowding within the district. The bond would also fund an 18,000 square foot expansion at Ridgefield High School. If the bond fails, a district spokesperson says adjustments will need to be made.
Union Ridge has, or is projected to have next year 900 students, and Southridge has 625. So one of the first things would be to kind of balance the enrollments between those schools, which means adjusting enrollment boundaries.
From 2010 to 2020, the population in Ridgefield doubled. That's why the district says the new schools are needed. It would cost each household about $140 per year. The district expects the additional votes to be tallied by 4:30 p.m. tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Evergreen School District levy looks like it will pass and includes funding that helps students prepare for future jobs. It just needs a simple majority pass.